Just a couple of days ago, we discovered that we had the wonderful opportunity to have somebody here this evening who is very closely linked to the DeWolf market. Some of you, I'm sure, already know who I'm referring to. But I'm going to ask Jeff Moore, the co-owner of Just As Coffee Roasters, because you probably all know Jeff as well, and you know his interests in community, and it's not surprising that they have brought this lady with them. And so, Jeff, I'd like to ask you to introduce our special guest.
Yes, good evening. Shouldn't jiggle with the sound system. Yeah, as you know, tonight we're raising funds to renovate the DeWolf building, the permanent home of the Wolfville Farmers Market. And this building has a history. The DeWolf family have been a very prominent family in this community for many generations, and have been at the economic and social center of the community. Indeed, the town was named after the Wolf family. So we're very pleased tonight to have with us Jean DeWolf, who is the matriarch of the, she doesn't like me to use that term, but she's the matriarch of the DeWolf family. Jean said that when they built this warehouse, there were really only two other industries in Wolfville, and that they were the bakery and the dairy. And I remember years ago touring the warehouse with Jean's husband, Owen, and him showing me all kinds of artifacts from the history of the business and all kinds of documents. And one of the documents that stood out was a purchase order from Nazi Germany for apples from the Annapolis Valley. That was actually before the Second World War, of course. So Owen was a wonderful, kind, and generous man, and he was very dedicated to the community. And Jean feels he would have been very pleased to see this project going forward. And as Jean said on the way in, who would have thought this old warehouse would gather such a crowd? So I'd like to invite Jean just to say a few words about how she's feeling about the project. Have to take the mic over.
And I hope everybody can hear me.
Do you want a mic, Jean?
I'm fine, thank you. I just wanted to say that it's really true that I'm so impressed to see what the young people of the valley and the older people are doing towards making this farm market a success. If tonight is any example, I see nothing but a good future. And the whole thing, from my point of view, started back in the 1920s when my father-in-law started R.W. Wolf Limited and started growing apples. And at that time, we owned about 12 orchards and had farm managers for them. And we were shipping apples then to Britain. And as the war progressed, of course, the British markets were lost. And we then were shipping apples to the Barbados, and it always seemed strange when people would come home from the islands and say, well, we saw your apples on the dock in Barbados. Anyway, there's been a lot of exciting times. One of the most exciting and the most curious one was the night the police called and said, Mr. DeWolf, your barn in Medford is burning. That was the biggest barn we had and probably the best. And we watched from Wolfville and we went over and we got there just as they opened the doors of the barn and let the 200 cows out that had been inside. And there was a fireman in a bright orange or yellow coat that took off and they all followed him. So he had a whole field full of animals there. But that's when And then after that, Owen decided he should build closer to the railway tracks, which of course aren't much use to us anymore. But I want to thank Debbie and Jeff for asking me to come tonight, because as I say, that warehouse has been quite an inspiration to me and to my children, who look back on history and remember the days when everything was active. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. DeWolf, for coming and speaking. It's fantastic to be able to have you here.